Okay. I don't know why I don't know why I do this. Okay. Your son, 13, private doctor in the process of diagnosing him with autism spectrum disorder and tested multiple times by the school, but they never diagnosed him with ASD, though many results suggest ASD. Should I be upset about that? Shouldn't a school have caught it? The current doctor thinks it's stunning this wasn't clear. She says there is no doubt in my mind he is on the spectrum. Well, let's go back, guys. Yes, the school system has a responsibility to test thoroughly and test for all known and unknown disabilities. At the same time, should you be upset about them not catching it? No, not at all. Because every parent out there should understand that even though it's a requirement that the school should be doing these things, the school's not a psychologist, all right? Their requirement is to do rating scales initially. And then based upon that, they can do an ADOS, but then they typically use their in-house people to do an ADOS. As there is no motivator there for them to diagnose your child with anything. You know, please understand that the IDEA, the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, just like 504, is a civil rights act. Now, the IDEA comes with funding, but it doesn't mean it's not a civil rights act. Now, why is it a civil rights act? Because there's been a historical pattern of abuse and discrimination toward this protected population of special education students. So therefore, the federal government had to come in and tell the schools, stop doing that. We're going to give you some money. And I know everybody complains that the federal government doesn't fund to the level that they committed to. That's true. They're only funding special education to 14 to 16%, when in the law it says that they need to contribute up to, I believe, 40%. Well, they've never gone above that 16% threshold, ever. But still, it is only intended to be a supplement to the school system's requirement to provide an education, the same as they do with any other child that doesn't have a disability. So this is just considered supplemental, or hey, we're helping you out a little bit. But quite technically, do they need to? No. Federal government doesn't need to give the schools anything, quite frankly. Why is that? Because our special education students are still students. They're still human beings living within the boundary of your public school boundary, geographically within your area. They don't magically become federal education kids. All right? They're still students within your Board of Education. But there is no motivating factor for them to identify your child as autistic. Zero. And in fact, in many instances, it's the opposite. They're going to do everything in their power not to identify your child, because they don't want to spend money on your child, because your child is a net loss for them in the perspective of many of the people that work in administration and some teachers. So you shouldn't get upset at them for doing what they do. Even though the law requires them to do it, the law is requiring them to do it not for some altruistic need, but as a mandate because of historical abuses toward a protected population. That is a completely different mindset. You know, they're not doing it, or they're not mandated to do it just to be nice. So this is where, even though it's not the parent's duty, you hold 0% of the responsibility to provide your child a free and appropriate public education under this law. There is nothing, zero, zilch within the law that says that you as a parent shouldn't go out and verify everything that a school is or isn't doing. If a school in prior evaluations didn't identify your child, it automatically puts you in a position to request an independent evaluation. If you suspected, or you were like, that's not right, all the markers are there for autism. Well, that puts you in a position every one of those times to demand an independent evaluation. So that's always the checkmate for the parents, guys. They do their evaluations, and if you don't believe that they're doing them right, you can come back and request the independent evaluation that they pay for. Now, at any time, at any point, the parent always retains the right to go get their own private evaluations, just not paid for by the school. And so in that regard, there's always fail-safes in this law to always keep the parent at a logistical advantage, which they should be, because this is a civil rights law to keep the school on the right path doing the right things. But that's where we've got to be educated advocates for our kids. That's why our teachers need to understand every nook and cranny of this law. That's why I created this page. That's why I created this forum, so I could bring everybody's level of knowledge up to where it needs to be so they can't hoodwink you. But rest assured, guys, you need to double check, triple check. You need to always be asking questions. You don't ever trust that they're doing the right thing. There is zero motivation for them to do the right thing. Now, many of I'm talking mainly administration, boards of education. They just don't want to spend money on special ed. And the states don't want to. And they complain about the feds as though our kids are federal education kids. And they're not. Our teachers, the ones that are passionate, our administrators that want to get into this, they're doing it to help. But believe me, they'll tell you, they're hamstrung by this as well. They're limited on what they can do. But they're limited because of the people above them, which typically the superintendent and the board of education. All right? So you just got to understand, that mechanism. So, I wouldn't, it's like getting mad at a dog for barking. That's what dogs do.